learning about you and talking about the history, but we'll actually like reveal something, which is always
Right,
fun.
right. Something interesting, not just me. I got
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah.
Oh,
No,
by all means, by all means. You don't want to.
yeah,
It's not. I swear, every game designer's Cody has the coolest backstory ever, right?
yeah, yeah,
Like Cody's backstory is like if I was making my character in a TRPG called Life and I wanted to be a game designer profession,
yeah.
I'd be like, well, my dad was a game designer and
Exactly, exactly. But you'd be
right,
so,
right.
but
No, I have a very standard like I played a lot of games as a kid and I really liked it background. If
nice.
you've probably interviewed other game designers, so you've heard this before.
Oh
Cyberpunk
yeah.
Uncensored.
No,
Million
but
variations on one thing, but
yeah.
fair.
No, but you'd be surprised. You know, people are interested. Like Jay Gray was kind of saying the same thing in his episode. But it's like, you know, people are interested to learn about you guys. You know, it's fun.
I hear you.
Hey, here we are. We're recording. So what's up, everybody? This
Hello.
is Cyberpunk Uncensored, and this episode is all about my buddy James Hutt. Works for R.Talsorian Games. You might know him as the mayor of Balance Town. So what's up, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me on again.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
happy to be here.
Yeah, no, I'm glad to have you on and actually talk about you. I know we were just joking about that during the little intro stuff. People might have heard some of that chatter, but yeah, it's like every time you and like I had Jay on a previous episode, anytime you guys do, you know, panels or interviews or shows or anything, obviously you guys are always talking about, you know, Witcher or Cyberpunk or you know, any of these things that you guys are doing. And I understand, you know, it's your job and that's what you guys are out to promote and hype. But this episode, in this case, we're going to talk about you, like just more on like a personal level. I think it'd be kind of fun to learn a little bit, you know? But, and
That
then,
sounds
and
good. Let's do it,
yeah,
man.
and anybody tuned in, there's also going to be an episode of the Game Master Tips where James is going to go over his process of campaign building. So make sure you check that out too. But yeah, for now, why don't you just, you know, I'll just pass the mic to you. Give me, you know, a whole thing on you. You know, where you started with role playing games up till current times. You know, just walk me through everything, James Hutt. Give me the crash course here.
All right. Here's what I've prepared. We can do the shorter version, and then you can drill into whatever part you find most interesting.
Sure.
Uh, so the sort of first gaming experience that I do is I'm living in California. I'm in elementary school, hanging out with my best buddy Alex, uh, and he has an N64 because his house is cool. And that's basically the first place I got to play games, and that was the best. And it was a great environment. You know, my best friend playing N64 back in the day. Beautiful childhood memories. A couple years ago on, I
what
got my
was your
first Game Boy Advance.
what was your favorite games back then? Like when you first got that, like going to your buddy's house. What was it first like?
It was Mario Party 2.
Oh, yeah.
The second one, you got to dress up in the outfits. It was the best. Um, anyone who's played it will know this is truth.
Nice.
Uh, so anyway, I got my first Game Boy Advance, and that's like my first system, and I played to death. Of course, run through a bunch of batteries. Um, and it isn't really until middle school that I actually get to play a tabletop role-playing game, but I think that's pretty standard.
Oh yeah.
Not a lot of people are playing tabletop role-playing games in elementary.
Right.
But anyway, I do remember the first thing I ever ran though. Back then,
Was it
it was a
Fisher Price, My First Dungeon Master, or?
no, it was a 3.5 Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh, okay.
We had I had made a wizard's tower and I filled it with owl bears that had gone crazy from a wizard's experiment, and they had a like an obsidian gem thing in them. And the wizard had died in the process of the experiment, so his body was on the top of the tower. But
Nice.
these owlbears, straight vertical dungeon crawl with only owlbears, which could get competitive. Um, anyway, it was great. I had a ton of fun, and that's we played a couple of other games, and then we all decided to play RuneScape for a long time, and I didn't get to play until high school again.
But when you first got started,
Uh,
even when you were doing, originally the first time you started playing in middle school or whatever, you were already diving into running a game. You didn't play, you dove into being a dungeon master?
Well, we didn't have like it was a necessity thing at that point, because we didn't have like an older brother who
Mhm.
wanted to DM for us, right? And we were all, in the same grade, in Ohio. Um, so, one guy really wanted to play a fighter, and the other guy wanted to play a rogue. So I'm like, okay, I guess I'll GM.
Yeah.
Um, and I had a great time. I've gotten some chances to be a player character, but not that many, to be honest. It's a nice change of pace, but I really do like being a DM. You can probably tell that. Uh,
Yeah. But then you said you played again when you got into
anyway,
high school?
yeah, yeah. In high school, I was really into the fantasy books, and I wanted to play D&D again, in 3.5 again. So I started a D&D club actually,
Oh, awesome.
and we were for it was a boarding school, so you weren't allowed to stay up past a certain time. Um, but we managed to get a special dispensation to be able to stay up past a certain time. So it was the only club we were allowed to stay up after dark. It was great.
That's
Part of the
awesome.
reason was that because we were playing with the physics teacher, which is the nerdiest thing that you could possibly do is play Dungeons and Dragons with the physics teacher. Um, but that was great. That was unadulterated joy. I played a cleric of Paylor 3.5, cast Scorching Ray.
Nice.
Didn't get to GM that much that time, but that's one of my favorite player characters I've played.
Is that what's your all-time favorite race and class or whatever? What's your favorite?
Um, in D&D, I really liked in 3.5 half elves were really, really good. Really good. So I was a teenager and I wanted to play the power class
Yeah.
and cast Scorching Ray. So basically I played half elves. I like to play human variants now because I'm still a power gamer. And human variants get a feat at one, which is really good.
Yeah.
Turns out, great weapon fighting is a hell of a drug.
Oh yeah.
Um, all right. Yeah, so that's basically high school for me. That club's still around. I'm
Oh really?
happy to announce. Yeah,
That's
yeah, the
awesome.
physics teacher runs it now. So can't wait to send them some books pretty
Yeah, that's
soon.
really cool. So
Hopefully we get them playing some Cyberpunk.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
He's still there teaching then, and now he's running the club.
yeah,
That's really cool.
uh, perks of having a teacher buy-in.
Yeah.
Uh, so I go to I'm getting into college now. I go to Kenyon College, for a BA in economics, and there I started an anime club because I like anime. Uh, and I play a lot of TRPGs in this one. This is the first time I play things that aren't Dungeons and Dragons. Uh, but it's relegated to like one session, cool little one-page ones with the TRPG club on campus. Um, and then a baton game where you pass the who gets to be the dungeon master
Mhm.
in fifth edition at this point.
Oh, okay. But so
Trying to
it wasn't until college until you started, playing games other than D&D style or whatever, right?
yeah, in so much as TRPG. Actually, I play a lot of board games, whole lot of board games, but typically it's harder to get a game together for a TRPG. So I end up reading a lot of TRPGs that I want to play and not getting to play them
Yeah.
unless they're like Mechanical Oryx. It's only one page. Half the people are drunk anyways. Let's get them to play Mechanical Oryx. Um, anyway, I actually end up at this point reading a lot of R.Tal books, but not getting to play them,
Huh.
which is a shame. And basically, all I did in was my first experience with RTL stuff in college. Is building mecha for Mechton and not getting to run it, and also just doing character creation for Cyberpunk. That was my favorite thing.
Oh yeah.
Like, I have this much budget. I'm not going to use any of the life path stuff. What crazy stuff can I come up with? Um, so I'd say directly that got into the current edition of Cyberpunk. I wanted to make character creation as much fun as I had when I did it in college.
Yeah, but that's awesome that you were excited about that too. I was as well, and that's one of the more fun parts I think of like Cyberpunk is all that character creation stuff, the depth in the life path, all that great stuff. But it sucks that you didn't get to play back then, but you still created characters and got into it. But it sucks you didn't get to play yet. So where did you go from there? How did that end up?
Uh, or are you talking about after college? I'm
Yeah,
done with the college section. There's nothing else. There's nothing else there. It's just me trying to get an economics degree and
yeah, that's boring. We don't want to talk about.
succeeding. Yeah,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
worked out.
Well, I guess maybe
Thank you for asking.
a lot of that. Yeah, a lot of that.
Actually, this is a great. This is the beginning of the part of I think I want to play, make games, right? But I'm not sure it's a viable profession at this point because that's kind of like I put it akin to like uh I really want to be an astronaut, but you know, uh it's like it's much easier to say I'm going to be a fireman because everybody needs firemen. There's a track that you can follow to get there. At this point I was just looking anywhere to is this a thing I can do? Is there a middle road I can take? That's part of the reason I got an economics degree, so that I could study game theory and get statistical modeling training, um, and also end up with maybe a backup plan in case I couldn't be an astronaut.
Right.
Uh, but
And I imagine
right, yeah, and
a lot of that
uh,
economic stuff and working with numbers and all that, like you said, gives you the knowledge of working with numbers and all that crunch. So I imagine that helped you with becoming the mayor of Balancetown.
oh yeah, for sure. I know at least in as far as Cyberpunk Red is concerned, I built an entire economy in the game. So if you play a day-to-day campaign where you map out, okay, on Tuesday I do this, on Wednesday I do this, you will end up like having to pay rent at the end of the month, and you'll end up being able to save a certain amount of money. On average, you might get lucky, you might not, because you're sort of if you're not directly doing a job, which is how you make the real cash, you're spending your downtime to get a little bit of money based on your level in the highest role you have. Um, which is kind of like I basically I modeled out the gig economy in game,
Oh,
so
yeah.
that'll be fun once you guys get your hands on the book
Yeah,
to
yeah,
see if you can remain in your studio apartment or not have to downsize into a cube hotel
yeah. No, I love.
without doing a job that month.
Yeah, I love how you did that, with the job and the hustle and side things. Like it just how it's laid out, it's just so realistic and it just puts some depth to what previously was just considered downtime. You know what I mean? It's really cool.
Yeah. Thanks.
But where did you but
I
back to, you graduated college, that went well, the economics stuff, all that. But then after that,
well, I graduated college in the middle of a recession. Uh, that part didn't go well. Uh, around 2016.
uh
Um, so I went indie um, after being depressed for a little bit. Uh, and being indie made me not depressed, which was a great change of pace from being depressed. Um, and I started working on a zine with one of my friends named Eugene Fasano. He runs up Arcana Games. Check them out; they're great. Um, and our zine was called Visions of the Vault. It was a fifth edition zine. You get some magic items every month.
Oh,
And
cool.
what we did was we would put a lot of effort and actual real game design into testing these 5 items in the book each month.
That's really cool.
Then we moved into some adventure content, and we got in Dragon Magazine,
Oh, wow.
which is sort of we were just trying to build our portfolio, get something under our belt so we can go get work. Um, and that ended up working out. Um, it was So other than that, I was doing some freelance game design. I worked with some people. Uh, I can't talk about some of them, but one of those people that I worked with in freelance was R.Talsorian Games, and they were a one of my favorite clients, and I'm very happy it worked out. But that's sort of the first time that happens.
That's awesome.
Interestingly enough, during this time, that's just the TRPG side of it. I'm trying to fire on all cylinders. I'm trying to work. I'm trying to move out of my parents' house
Mhm.
at this point. Um, so I also do some work in video games. I started a company called Triangulate.
Mhm.
Got together a bunch of people who were in the same situation that I was, um, trying to make their first game out of college. They have a background, you know, young upstarts, if you will.
Yeah.
uh, got them together under a banner, and we put out an indie game called Triangulate. It didn't do so well, but it had a big heart. Uh, and I also put out another game called Tiny Bubbles, which did a lot better and still has a big heart.
Nice.
Um, I did that with my neighbor, Stu Denman
Mhm.
at Pine Street Codeworks. Just go check out Tiny Bubbles. It's on all phones. Um, I think it's free on Android. It's a little bit on iOS, but it doesn't do in-app purchases or anything like that. Very ethical.
Nice.
Um, anyway, that was fun. Those were like more analytical puzzle experiences. And I did put out a board game version of Triangulate, which is distribution is basically only the Seattle area, as far as I could take it in my car and sell it in physical to a game store. Um, One of those game stores is where I met Mike Pondsmith.
Oh,
Uh,
shit.
so I this is the version where part where I say, "Hey, you need to be focused on networking at all times, to all people, and you need to network with people who have the job you want. Um, and there's a serendipity that arrives when you do that, and I'm glad it was there for me at the time that it was. Um, anyway, so about after all those games I just mentioned, um, I managed to convince R.Talsorian Games to hire me on full time, uh, which is exciting because now we're at the part where I can remember in the front part of my brain and not the back part of my brain.
Yeah.
Um, I work on Cyberpunk RED Jumpstart and Witcher's Journal, which they're out right now. And I've done work on Book of Tales, Tome of Chaos, and Black Chrome, which are coming up.
Hell yeah. I'm excited about that.
Anyway, that's my so that's the short version. It
Yeah.
probably took longer than I expected, but that's me.
Yeah. What was the you said?
Uh,
But you said you had a first gig, that first got you in with our Talsorian. That was separate than the first time you met Mike. You had a separate job that you were hired for or something. Did you? I thought you said that.
the first time I met Mike, I was introed to him while I was trying to hawk copies of my Triangulate board game.
Oh, okay.
Uh, it was in a game store. Anyway,
And that was it. And then after meeting him, then you got your first gig with them. It was after that.
yeah, yeah.
Oh, okay, cool.
I uh, I met with him the first time. Second time, he said keep in touch. I followed up. I knew that it's a massive deal. You can Google the guy very easily.
Yeah.
Uh, and right. So the second time, I say, hey, I have some more questions I'd love to ask you. And to that one, I bring a prototype. You're like, hey, look at this interesting thing. I have skills. very flagrant attempting to get work procedure. Um, anyway,
But it's
funny enough, it wasn't the first time I had had such a meeting. The first time I had attempted to do that was with Ed Freeze, um, who basically is the reason we have an Xbox
oh, okay.
with Microsoft. And I completely screwed up that coffee. Um, but in doing that, I learned how not to do it the second time, and hence I am here.
Yeah, yeah. What did you mess up on the first one? What went wrong?
I just tried to pitch someone who didn't want to be pitched.
Uh,
That's not a conducive environment to getting what you want.
yeah, yeah. Most definitely. Yeah, because then it turns from a pitch
Anyway,
to an annoyance, you know.
but he's a great guy.
Nice. Now, what? How?
Totally
Yeah, and
awesome guy.
now with working with R.Talsorian now for everything you've contributed, when did the whole Mayor of Balancetown nickname come into play that they always refer to you as?
Right. So it was actually during CP Red Jumpstart. Uh, there are basically two spaces in the office. Um, we're in a big factory style space. I think it's a converted radiation testing place. It's scrubbed. Everything is fine.
Yeah.
But this is actually where they used to have the radioactive stuff.
Wow.
I'm talking to you right now. Kind of our own hot zone.
Yeah, yeah.
Anyway, but there's like an overseer's office thing, closed in area, with a bunch of computers and stuff. And I tend to be more creative when it's very quiet and I can't hear anybody. I have ADHD, so I get distracted easily. I like to just be in an isolation box when I work. And there's this great break room area, so I would take all of my design work over to the break room area and do it there instead. Uh, and that became known as Balance Town when I had, because I work very physically. I like making paper models of designs and testing things on the table right after I make them to see if they're fun. If they're not fun, you have to throw them away. Fortunately, we can't make things that aren't fun. Kind of a rule.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I was back to here with all of my, with my computer and all my notes and this little scale model of a town. And that's where it came up.
Nice. Well, I'm glad that came about that way because I love all the rules that you've come up with and just the streamline that Red is. Like, I wish we could talk more detail about it now, but it's coming out soon. Everyone will get to see all the details, and then they'll see exactly how streamlined and awesome and detailed it is, and that's great. So yeah, what's plans for the future? You said that the current thing I guess you're working on is Chrome Black. Is that what are some of the future things that you got working on?
I can't really say much about future projects, but right now we're working on Book of Tales. Uh, is is in the works. I did a lot of writing on Book of Tales. That's our upcoming adventure book
Oh,
for the
awesome.
Witcher TRPG. Um, I wrote I wrote 4 adventures for the book, and I helped the two awesome authors that are working with us for the other two.
Very cool.
Um, anyway, um, and Tome of Chaos is we're working on it, getting to do awesome magic stuff. And there's also Black Chrome, which is coming along.
Nice.
Anyway, can't really say much
No,
about
I know, I understand.
stuff.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Any of those don't even have release dates, so
Yeah, yeah. No, I totally understand. I just wanted to at least give it a mention. But one thing we can at least talk about, and I'd love you to just chat about that for a minute, is the rollability media. The media's
yeah,
rollability.
I did bring something to show y'all. Come with some red meat for the party. So the media rollability, I wanted to go over it more in depth because it's one of those simplified designs I think is very synonymous with the idea of where this edition is going. We've got the media role ability is called credibility. So basically, difference between a media and the other characters, if they write something, they can convince people that it's accurate, that it's true. A solo can put out a newspaper article, but it might not be credible. So there are two sides to this. The first one is rumor, and the second one is sort of publishing. And they sort of mesh. I'm going to start with rumor because it's how the media starts gathering info for their story. So how rumors work is you get a passive rumor generation, essentially. As long as you're like not in the middle of nowhere in a cave, you pick up on stuff just from your network. I think once or twice a week, the GM makes a secret roll, and that's once or twice a week of in-game time. And depending on how high they roll, and that number is modified by your rank, of course, being a media, you'll get a rumor that's anywhere from vague to very detailed, depending on how high they are. Higher you get, the more sort of work is done for you. Like, oh, there's a person, place, and a thing at a certain time. Instead of a vague rumor, like something is happening at the docks. So rumors, by definition, are often untrue. And as a rule, are never the full story. Finding that is your job.
Yeah.
As a media, you don't just get a fully formed story from a rumor, and you don't really report on a rumor. So what you get to progress that rumor into something that can have an effect is you have to do an investigation of some sort. You have to accrue evidence and data. And this segues nicely into the publishing part. So publishing is based on a D10 roll and your believability after you publish to see if it hits, if people think it's real. Because you can do all this work, and this often happens. You can do all this work, and it just, nobody cares that Arasaka killed 12 people at the docks. They do that all the time. It's
Right.
it's not a scoop. Companies being bad are just companies.
Yeah.
Believe sort of when your believed, essentially, when your role ability is effective, that's when they say, oh, Arasaka killed a bunch of people at the docks. Somebody should do something about it. Bridging that gap is the difference in your skill as like a level 4 media and like a level 8 media. Each one gives you 10% more believability. So it's a real jump from ranks. You also get access to different levels of people who will take an interview with you, including at higher levels like corporate presidents and CEOs and stuff. So there's something you can do, because like what you gather on them matters. And there are two factors to that. The first one is, I'm going to read from the rules text. If your story contains even a single piece of verifiable evidence that's easily understood by the masses. So the first one is, do you have one piece of evidence that's easily understood by the masses? And the second one is, if you have 4 distinct verifiable pieces of hard evidence. So like pictures, video. I have him on tape saying he did it.
Yeah.
then you get a 20% boost. You get a 10% boost for having one easily understood um, by the masses thing. Like, I have him on tape saying he killed him. I wanted to do it this way because it sort of gets around the idea that, like, it's a story, uh, and whether or not you believe it is if it presents itself to be true.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah.
if you have a tape. Um, but Cyberpunk is the type of place where even if you have four pieces of verifiable evidence, like you've got everything, and you have them on tape, it still makes you only 30% more likely to have an actually believable story
Right.
than if you did it without any of them. Anyway, uh, so impact is the last bit, and that's at your credibility rank. People believe you enough so that when you present all this evidence, what can happen? Um, Ranks 1 and 2 are only really for people who are multi-classing in, um, because at you start at rank 4 in character generation in any role in Cyberpunk Red. Um, so at your rank 4, the impact that you can have in max is it is a direct effect, and local and small time bad guys can get arrested or thrown out of power, and justice can get served. So you can't even get like somebody arrested until rank 3 of credibility. Uh, you can only make small incremental changes before that. So, of course, at higher levels, you can just set somebody's stock price on fire. Um, but I like to think of this as simultaneously one of the least sexy role abilities and also the most sexy role ability. Because your role ability is essentially winning the war, not winning the battle.
Right, right. That's true.
And does that mean that you only get to roll? You actually use your role ability at the beginning of a mission, and then maybe a little bit in the middle, and then finally at the end in a large, big way? Yes. Will the solo get to do it the entire game as long as he's shooting somebody or she?
Right.
Yeah. Um, but I think the type of people that want to play a media are attracted to the idea that they will have a direct impact on a greater narrative. Like people who want to play the Rocket Boy.
No, definitely. I think, like you said, people that are getting into the media role, they know what they like out of that type of role playing. You know what I mean? So they're not expecting to be shooting up the whole time like a solo. You know, they kind of know their place, and like you said, they like to have that. I agree. I think that bigger impact on like the world. You know, the world building side of lore and stuff, because it is that, like you said, winning the war, not just the battle. It's that big story, and I do like how you incorporated the pieces of evidence and believable story of evidence or point to be made to give you at least that 30% increase, because it does make sense. Even if you are a lower level media or reporter and less people believe you, you're less viable to get the hookups to do things, but you do have some of that hard evidence, it should increase the chances of that getting out. But no matter what, your impact is gauged by how big of a media you are, and I think that's great. I think it's really cool, the details that you put into it. When it comes to the role abilities and how you set these up in all of them, were any of them more of a challenge than others? And in trying to maintain balance and figure out how to make it work.
I think Nomad's is the hardest one to write.
Really?
There's a lot going on in Nomad. I I won't reveal it now, but
Yeah.
it's got a lot of moving parts, and it's very modular, and there's a lot of different experiences that we had to account for the whole time, because different people are going to want to build different awesome vehicles.
Right.
Uh, and that required a whole separate system.
Oh, that's true.
And of course, I'm assuming you meant everything but Netrunner.
Right.
Because Netrunner would be the obvious answer of
Yeah,
this is
yeah.
the most complicated role. Um, and balancing that one is making a whole new system in itself.
Yeah, no, definitely. Net running wasn't even considered in the conversation because I do understand that's not just the rollability and, making that balance, but that was like a complete rebuild on the whole system and way that it can work for a net runner to even work to begin with.
And tech is also very impactful to the
Tech was
rules.
tech was going to be my
Um,
choice. I was wondering.
basically, basically all of the items were built with tech in mind. Um, so we can I one of my go-to thoughts is what is the tech going to do to improve this? How does this impact the tech? What is the tech going to want to do? And a sign of a good item is one where there are multiple different things the tech might want to do to it. That means that the players are going to engage with the world in different ways and build their own experience, have their own stories. You know the rest.
Mhm.
Anyway, I wanted to get to one more thing about medias. My recommended reading, or if you want to play a media, you want to be a hard-hitting investigative journalist, you got to read the comic book Transmet Transmetropolitan uh,
Transmetropolitan.
to check out the Gonzo journalist in a cyberpunk setting. My favorite Gonzo journalist from a cyberpunk setting, Spider Jerusalem.
Okay.
That's a good story. 100 issues of a comic, beginning, middle, and end, magnum opus. That's all I'm saying.
Nice.
Um, anyway, yeah, that's all I got on media.
Awesome. No, and I appreciate you sharing it. I know leading up to Red, like, how it's been not being able to talk about certain things and then trying to reveal enough to, keep buzz going and reward people for hanging out and waiting. But I really appreciate it. And I know everybody tuning in appreciates it too. So that's really cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm definitely excited to hear what everybody publishes as a media when the book comes out.
Yeah.
That'd be exciting. Put it on the Reddit. Read it. I read everything on the Reddit.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. So yeah, I think we had a great episode where we actually got to dive in to everything James Hutt instead of just everything R.Talsorian. We got to learn a little bit about you and your background, which was cool. Some things I didn't know about you, and that's awesome. Before we kind of cut this off, I wanted to say, like, you on a personal event. I know we're gonna go do the Game Master Tips episode and at least chat a little bit about your campaign building. But when it comes to playing, we talked about the whole half-elf thing, but when it comes to Cyberpunk, what's your favorite all-time role in Cyberpunk?
Ooh, that's hard. Uh, I have to say I've built a lot of solos, to be honest, back in college for 2020. Um, but I've also built a fair number of rocker boys. I think they're really fun. Um, I think it's a three-way tie with solo, rocker boy, and of course the media. That's why I wanted to reveal it here.
Nice.
Uh,
Yeah, that's surprising. That's awesome. All right, cool. I don't really have any more questions. I think I know enough about you. I'm done talking about you. Let's get over to the Game Master Tips episode and talk about that. But no,
well, I'll see you in that episode.
yeah, yeah.
Whenever we, film that.
Yeah. But in all seriousness, thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. Everybody tuning in, make sure you like and share
Thanks
the
for having me.
video. Check out R.Talsorian and everything they have going on. Obviously, we're hyping up to the big Red release, and then after that will be the video game. So everything's exciting. But yeah, everybody tune into the Game Master Tips episode. We're heading there right now. Thanks so much.